everybody. What's up?
No, you don't get to start.
No, come on.
I get to start.
Come on.
Everybody,
really?
this is Don Carr from Sweetwater. I start this one. You started the last one. That's not fair. And that is the man. That's Doug Sewell.
That's who we're here for,
That's
right?
what we're here for because of this J-MOD 100 John Mayer amp that's coming out.
Indeed.
Indeed.
This thing is a beast. Let's get that out of the way. Let's go ahead and say it now. It's a beast. Okay.
Why do you call it a beast?
Oh my gosh! It's
Come on, Don.
big,
Why?
giant, bold, articulate, fat, responsive, punchy. All your favorite adjectives about amplifiers.
Why don't you play?
Okay. All right.
What's the bass pickup sound like?
Oh.
So for everybody out there, there's no reverb on that. This amp doesn't have reverb in it. It's got 2 loops. So the way it works is that one of the loops has a gain stage in it. So we can kick that in and out.
Right.
And then there's another loop in the back for whatever reverbs or pedals that you want to put in after the tone controls.
Cool.
So if I kick the gain stage loop in, you get this done.
Okay.
You want a little more gain in there?
Ooh, man.
All right, and then back out, you can clean.
Right.
So the way this works is this gain stage is after the tone controls, whereas normally the gain stage on amps is before the tone controls or in the middle of the tone controls, right? So I think of it as a 2-loop amp. You've got one loop for this gain stage that's what's in it, and then there's another one for the loop in the back. John puts a reverb unit, and when he was on the Dead & Company tour, he had these big reverb units that he had in the loops, and he goes back and forth between Burkasti reverb units or whatever he wants to put in the loop, right?
Cool.
Very interesting amplifier. We spared no expense. Was there any part in this thing when you did it that you spared any expense at all to meet a price point? Any at all?
Didn't. I threw price points out the window, I guess. But the interesting thing is that sometimes the most expensive part didn't fit in the spot right. So we spared no expense in the sense of we picked what was right for each component. We have a $35 cap.
In one
And
of
we
the
have a
positions?
35-cent cap next to each other.
Yeah, and the point is that you spent the time to figure out that the 35-cent cap was the one that worked in that
Well, it was
spot.
a polypropylene and it sounded completely natural. And that was the one we used.
Right.
400-volt cap, so it didn't pop, and about 160 volts going through it, so there was no danger in it whatsoever.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is the prototype. So this is what John used on the Dead & Company tour. And you heard one of the very early ones that Denny Jehosa had that he brought out to Sweetwater. That's what John had heard, and John said, well, there's something there. Let's work with it and turn it into this amp. So
Nice. Yeah, so he was really kind of like the final grooming on it, basically, John's involvement. Yeah.
For this one,
Yeah, nice.
So it's a lot of amplifier.
Boy, it is.
There's the back of the amp, which actually, normally nobody would advertise the back of the amp, but if it's okay, I want to turn it around and show everybody, right?
Sure. Okay.
So this is the back of the amp. The reason it says from LA on it is because it was in John's arsenal, and that was in LA, and it came back for one of the new mods that John had asked for.
Oh, cool.
So you've got fuses here, and you got fuses here. All the bias for the power tubes is in the back of the amp. You don't have to open the amp up, and you can change from 6L6s to EL34s to KT88s and piles of other tubes. You have a 16 ohm output. You've got 2 8 ohm and 2 4 ohm outputs that are switchable. There's an effects loop return and effects loop send, and you've also got your foot switch for changing the effects loop in and out and changing the gain stage in and out.
Right.
Wow.
There's a lot going on. Of all weird things, this stuff was important to John as well.
Of course, man.
It was very, very important.
It's really.
He wanted all the tubes lined up where you could reach them from the back, and just kind of interesting
in
old
the
school
beginning,
stuff
you had
that
to
he
reach
wanted.
real in, far in
yeah.
for some of the tubes, and he said, "No, that's not okay. They've got to be right in the back."
Much harder to design that way, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Anyway, so let's turn it back around, Doug. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, this is a real piece of audio gear. You know, we think the Sunzera is a real piece of audio gear too, but in terms of, you know, a piece of studio equipment, touring equipment, something robust where absolutely everything's just done in every way possible to be the right thing for him and the right thing from us, we've done on this amp.
Right, yeah, that's another thing. When you're in collaboration with somebody like that who has particular needs and desires and hears things and wants it to be a certain way,
Right.
man, that's just, you know, that's a lot of effort to get there.
We went out to see him recently, and he had us put pots on every single part in the amp and turn it until we got the bias of the first preamp tube exactly the way he wanted, and then the second preamp tube,
Nice.
and then the slope resistor
Yeah.
exactly where he wanted
Right.
it, and the feedback resistors and all the things
Yeah.
that are internal to the amp that you can't adjust with the knobs.
Right.
He wanted them to all be exactly what he wanted. And one time we were turning a pot, he goes, "There's 4 amps there."
Ah,
And
as
he's-
you're scrolling
And,
through,
yeah,
right,
it's
right,
4 amps. And
right.
he's,
Nice.
don't touch it. And we'd measure it, right? And we'd go back. And since we had it measured, we would go and make sure and go back and forth over and
Yeah.
over and over again.
Right.
When we were done, Renee Martinez, who works for him, said, "I wish I had filmed it." Because it was the first time that he had gotten to watch the internal parts of the amp get adjusted.
Yeah.
Normally, you're just adjusting the knobs on the front.
Right.
But as you know, an amp has a tone no matter where you turn the things, and those parts were really important to John.
Yeah, because that's the way it feels basically. That's how
way
the
it
amp
feels,
ends up
the way
feeling.
it sounds, the way it compresses, the way the tone controls work, how much bass it has, what
Yep.
notes are the bass at, how much sub is in there, is there too much? Some of his old amplifiers that are worth a tremendous amount of money have bass roll-off and high-end roll-offs knobs on them, and he wanted this super glued, those values.
Right to his
super glued in
spots,
place,
yeah,
right?
what he liked.
Now,
Yeah.
the other part is Doug and I never opened up any of the amps that he had. It was just what we had done, the best we possibly could,
Right.
and then he would shoot them out.
Right, nice.
By the way, these rock stars are shooting stuff out. They are comparing in the basement, on tour, at rehearsal. They're if they've got 10 amps, they're trying them all to find out the absolute best one to use for the tour. 'Cause,
Sure.
I mean, that's all they got.
Well, yeah, that's their voice, and then think
Yeah.
about it. You know, that's what they're presenting to the world. And secondly, you know, you can hear it back on a recording, and then do a direct comparison. Because as you know, when you're playing something, it's not the same as when you're listening to it.
All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug this amp back
Okay.
in, and I'm going to turn the clean section up a little bit so it has some gain. So, and let me just play with it while you're playing, okay?
Okay.
Because if the clean channel doesn't gain up right, when you hit it really hard, it's not going to clip right? So there's been a lot of attention paid to that as well. Evil bright switch on, okay?
Yeah, right. It's got a pop to
Yeah.
it, but it's not
Doesn't
it's not
hurt.
ice
Yeah,
picky
I
at all,
know, I
man.
Now I'm going to turn the presence control up, okay? That almost sounded like Atlanta Rhythm section, what you just did. It's one of my favorite guitar
Oh,
players,
man.
Barry Bailey.
Oh,
He's just
man,
one of my
Barry's great.
favorites of all time. A J-MOD 100.
Yeah, sweet, man.
That's a real piece of gear.
Really nice.
A lot of work
man.
in there.
Sure is.
And by the way, John worked as hard as we did.
Yeah.
It was
That's
really
great,
cool.
man. That's
The other
great.
day, he tweeted everybody and said, "This is my rig for the tour." And I think like 1 million people saw it, and he got 67,000 likes in the first hour. I don't even know what that is, 67,000 likes in the first day, right? Unbelievable.
Man,
So from
nice.
Sweetwater, Don,
Yeah,
thank
nice
you very
work,
much. Doug,
nice
you did
work.
a good job.
Thank you, Paul.
Did a good job.
Thank you,
well done,
Paul.
well
Good
done,
to see
well
you.
done,
Yeah,
well
man.
done, well done. Nice playing.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Nice amp, easy to do, man. Nice guitar, of course.
See you guys. Bye.